Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. And this piece of communication, it really, it caused quite a stir online almost immediately.
It absolutely did. We are diving deep today into that document, the lengthy letter, 7 pages, I think.
That's right. 7, sent by Charlie Kirk, the conservative commentator, to Benjamin Netanyahu.
Just before Kirk passed. And its existence, well, it just instantly sparked these really intense, conflicting stories.
And that's really our mission here in this deep dive, because when Netanyahu offered condolences, he mentioned getting this, thoughtful letter. But then almost at the same time, you had these claims flying around online that Kirk had actually sent some kind of hostile go screw yourself message.
Right, suggesting a complete break, like he totally turned against Israel.
Exactly. So our goal is to really pull out the verified concerns, the actual strategic advice that's in the authenticated version of the letter.
The one that places like the New York Post shared.
Yeah, the one that seems legit. We want to separate what's actually in there from all the online speculation and, frankly, misinformation.
And reading that verified text, what we found is, well, it's absolutely not a rejection of support.
No.
Not even.
No, it's a strategic critique, a very strong one, framed with a real sense of agency.
It reads like advice from an ally, someone who believes the whole communication strategy is just, well, failing badly.
And we're going to spend a good amount of time really digging into why Kirk felt this was so necessary, this intervention, and the specific fixes he proposed, which are very American style.
Before we even get to the problems he saw, we need to look at how he frames the relationship. You pointed this out earlier.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, he doesn't start with policy points or, political maneuvering. Yeah. He starts with shared civilization, shared faith. He makes it clear right away he sees himself as a Christian advocate for Israel, someone who's been in this fight for a long time.
And he grounds his support in this shared battle to protect what he calls Judeo-Christian civilization.
That framing is just so crucial, isn't it, for understanding who he's speaking for and the kind of leverage he thinks he has?
Definitely. He explicitly links defending Israel to defending Western values more broadly. He even mentions taking over Ambassador Huckabee's show on TBN.
Right, and saying he uses that platform, that influential spot, to keep supporting Israel, keep supporting.
So for him, this alliance, it's not just political convenience. It's like a religious duty, a civilizational thing.
And he makes a pretty stark assessment. I mean, it's quite politically charged about the opposition growing.
Yeah, he talks about Mohammedanism spreading in the West.
Right. And he stresses that because of that, it's vital for Jews and Christians to, quote, stand united in an effort to contain and roll back radical Islam.
That really sets the stakes high from the get-go. It makes the conflict seem less like a regional thing and more like this global cultural fight.
Exactly. It's existential. And within that high-stakes context, he then lays out his purpose for right.
He says he wants to lay out our concerns and outline potential remedy. Pretty straightforward.
But he frames it carefully. He insists it's coming from a place of deep love for Israel and the Jewish, but adds that he needs brutally honest.
The classic tough love approach.
Yeah.
From a friend who feels they have to speak hard truth.
And that brutal honesty leads right into the main point, the driving conclusion of the whole letter. He states it bluntly. Israel is losing the information war and needs a communication intervention. That's the core diagnosis.
So not about military tactics on the ground.
No, not about the IDF's battlefield strategy. It's purely about the media strategy, communication, how Israel is presenting itself and fighting the narrative war.
And you can actually trace where this frustration started for him personally. He mentions a specific incident.
Yeah, the Easter anecdote. He says he started writing the letter around Easter.
Right, but instead of focusing on the holiday, he says he was just bombarded with messages.
About the Israeli army supposedly making it hard for Christians to get to churches in Jerusalem.
Which is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
The spark wasn't some huge geopolitical event. It was this immediate faith-related story that was hitting his own audience.
Exactly. He saw the specific narrative spreading Israel being hostile, and he looked around for an official Israeli response to counter it.
And he found nothing.
Silent. He says he saw no official statements pushing back on the narrative.
Wow.
Which meant that people like him, the outside surrogates, the non-official supporters, they were the ones stuck having to fact-check all the stuff themselves.
You can almost hear the frustration in the writing there. It's like, why are we, your allies, having to clean up these messes? Where's the official voice?
It's a fundamental complaint about structures. It implies Israel was basically outsourcing its crisis communications to volunteers.
Which, as he points out later, makes those volunteers look less credible. It feeds the whole paid apologist narrative we'll get to.
Precisely. It suggests the whole delegated comm strategy was just broken, leaving the defense looking disorganized, often unofficial.
Okay, let's move into section 2 then. This is where he lays out the evidence, the proof for his claim that Israel is losing this information.
And this part is really interesting because he mixes his own firsthand experience, qualitative stuff, with actual polling data.
The qualitative part comes straight from his campus tours,
Right.
which are known for drawing huge crowds.
Huge crowds, 4,000 or 5,000 students sometimes, mostly right-leaning, patriotic types you'd assume would support it.
But he noticed a big shift. He says half the questions he started getting were about Israel, and they were, in his words, all negative.
All negative. He describes spending half his time on stage basically defending Israel, defending the Jewish faith. Even jokes, kind of darkly, that he feels like he defends Israel more than its own government.
But the real bombshell is what he observed within his own community.
Yes, he calls this a 5-alarm fire. He states very clearly that Israel is losing support even in young Magi circles.
That's huge. If support is dropping among generally pro-Israel conservatives, the very people Kirk represents, that tells Netanyahu the problem isn't marginal. It's deep.
It means the anti-Israel narratives are somehow cutting across those traditional political lines, reaching demographics you wouldn't expect. It's a pervasive failure.
And he doesn't just leave it as an observation. He links it directly to data.
Right, the Harvard-Harris poll showing that. It's a devastating number. 40% of 18 to 24-year-old Americans support Hamas over Israel.
40%. That just lands like a ton of brick. It completely validates what he was seeing on campus.
It quantifies the disaster. It proves the information war isn't just being lost, like you said, it's being crushed, especially with the next generation.
Okay, here's where it gets really, for me anyway, because Kirk then lists the actual specific accusations he's constantly facing on these campuses.
Yeah, this isn't just him venting. This is like a field report from the front line. He's showing Netanyahu exactly what kind of attack counter.
And these aren't small disagreements about policy details.
No way. These are fundamental moral condemnation designed to just sever any sympathy someone might have. And they're packaged perfectly for, TikTok and social media.
Let's break down a few he lists. Students are asking him point blank, is Israel an apartheid state?
Right. And also, why does Israel conduct ethnic cleansing?
Those two terms, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, they're obviously not chosen by accident.
Not at all. They're incredibly loaded, historically charged terms. They're designed to equate Israel with, the worst regimes of the past.
Which makes supporting Israel seem morally toxic, especially to young people focused on social justice issues. If you're 20 and you hear apartheid, that's often an immediate deal breaker.
Exactly. And then the questions immediately pivot to American involvement, which targets his conservative base directly.
Like, why is American aid subsidizing Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people?
That's such a potent line of attack. It links U.S. tax dollars directly to these alleged massive moral crimes.
And using the word genocide, another absolute moral condemnation.
It practically forces young Americans to feel like they have to stop. It makes continuing to support Israel feel like a betrayal of their own value. This is how that information war loss translates real political pressure.
Then you see the shift into outright conspiracy, which is just chilling to see presented as normal campus questions.
Yeah, he's getting asked things like, Israel and Jews are running U.S. foreign policy.
And even, it's just abhorrent. Israel and Jews are responsible for 9/11?
The fact that these ancient anti-Semitic tropes are apparently just part of the regular Q&A now, it shows how far they've spread, probably through unchecked social.
That's not just policy criticism anymore. It's old hatreds repackaged.
And finally, he mentions the questions that hit right at the core of the U.S.-Israel alliance, challenging the whole national interest argument.
Like, defending Israel is not in America's national interest.
And the really loaded one, why is Israel trying to drag the U.S. into a war?
We'll come back to that one with the Iran point later, but strategically, all these questions, they put the American advocate like Kirk, completely on the back foot.
Totally. He has to spend his time arguing against the idea that Israel is a burden or danger instead of making positive arguments about shared values or cooperation.
If your main message has to be we're not a liability, you're already losing that debate, aren't you?
You really are. And all this pressure, this barrage of negativity, it leads directly to what Kirk calls the surrogacy dilemma.
Explain that. What's the dilemma?
It's this trap he finds himself in. When he defends Israel really strongly, what happens?
He gets accused of being a puppet, right?
Yeah.
A paid apologist.
Exactly. Which dismisses everything he says. But if he doesn't defend Israel strongly enough, maybe tries to be nuanced.
Then his own side, his supporters, might accuse him of being weak or even anti-Semitic.
It's a no-win situation. But Kirk's point is bigger than just his personal frustration.
He's saying it's a structural weakness in Israel's whole approach.
Yeah, by relying so heavily on private citizens, non-official, to carry the water, and Israel makes those advocates
because they don't have official standing. Their personal conviction gets turned against them.
Right. Kirk is essentially telling Netanyahu, your strategy is setting up your biggest supporters for failure and making them less.
Okay. He then focuses specifically on the failure around the Gaza narrative.
Yeah, and he's very clear here. He says he knows the reality. He knows Israel goes to great length to protect civilians.
He lists the evidence, dropping flyers, making phone calls, posting evacuation.
He also knows Hamas uses human shields, puts weapons in schools, hospitals. He's not questioning the IDF's actions.
He's questioning why nobody knows.
Pretty much. He says the problem is that 90% of the young generation get social media, from podcasts, and in
the places that matter for reaching young people.
There's very little pushback or fact-checking by Israeli government or pro-Israeli supporters, especially on social media.
So the truth about Israeli efforts, or Hamas tactic, it's effectively non-existence in the spaces where this key demographic gets its in.
That's a brutal assessment of a modern communication strategy, isn't it? It suggests that even if you have the facts on your side, if they're just sitting in press releases or on government websites,
they might as well not exist for the TikTok generation. You have to meet them where they are.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Kirk's unsolicited advice, the specific recommendations for fixing this mess, the remedy part.
And these are pretty concrete steps, aren't they? Heavily influenced by American political campaigning.
Very much so. Aggressive, proactive stuff. The first two are all about leadership, about Israel taking ownership. Recommendation 1. Israel needs a rapid response media.
Like a political war room.
Exactly. A professional team working 24/7, battling the press, countering narratives instantly, not waiting.
He specifically mentions the Trump campaign's effectiveness here.
Yes, he points to people like Stephen Miller and Caroline Levitt, strong communicators who are constantly out there pushing the message, using social media aggressively.
The idea being Israel needs that same kind of energy, that same speed. Don't let lies linger.
He even says he doesn't know if Netanyahu has a dedicated press secretary focused on this, which highlights a perceived lack of central leadership on the information front.
He praises Netanyahu's eloquence, but says you need a whole team of information warriors.
Because if you leave a vacuum, the anti-Israel stuff just rushes in to fill the void. The response has to be immediate, authoritative.
Okay, then recommendation 2, which feels like maybe the biggest structural shift he proposes.
I think it is. No more subcontracting. This flows directly from that surrogacy dilemma we talked about.
He's saying Israel has to stop farming out its information war to American supporters.
Yes, stop depending on subcontracting their information war efforts to surrogates in America. He wants Israel to lead the fight itself.
Yeah, he uses a really powerful analogy.
The military one? He says Israel never asks for American soldiers on the ground, right? The IDF does.
So the same principle should apply to the information. Fight your own battles.
And he makes a promise. If Israel does lead, if the government steps up, provides the facts, the direct, then people like him will gladly follow, amplify.
It's a call for the official apparatus to take charge, provide the...
And strategically, if the government leads, think about what that does for the surrogates. They're no longer just random voices.
They become amplifiers of official, credible information. It changes their status from potential paid apologist to trusted source relaying the official line.
Exactly. That's the huge strategic value in the shift he's demanding there.
Okay, so after demanding Israel take the lead, he proposes a specific tool. Recommendation 3, the Israeli Truth Network, IT.
Yeah, this is his blueprint for a central hub, a defensive information.
More than just a website, though.
Oh, yeah. It needs strong social media channels, but also this one-stop source of information website. You can tell this comes directly from his frustration on campus tours.
He wants a place where every single one of those toxic questions, he gets the apartheid one, the genocide one, the 9/11 one, is just thoroughly professionally debunked.
Exactly. So when a student asks him one of those questions, he doesn't have to waste 5 minutes arguing. He can just say, look, go to itn.org or whatever the site is and get the facts.
It's a tool for deflection, but also education. It empowers the surrogate.
And he sees the ITN as a hub, a connector, too, linking out to existing groups like Halil or educators like Dennis Prager.
Putting the whole pro-Israel ecosystem together.
Right. Posting links to supportive media figures, books, thinkers, creating a unified digital front where the truth is easy to find and constant.
And its own social media would be pumping out pro-Israel content, videos, news, all focused on that Judeo-Christian Western civilization frame he established earlier.
It's a vision for a really comprehensive, proactive media operation, not just a team that reacts to bad press.
Okay, the next couple of recommendations shift gears a bit, don't they? From infrastructure to the message itself, getting more emotional.
Yeah, recognizing that facts alone aren't always. You need to connect emotion. Recommendation 4 is about humanize.
And his specific idea here is using the hostage.
Exact. Invite released hostages to the U.S. for speaking. He calls it effective messaging.
Why? What's the goal?
To put a human face on, to move it away from abstract geopolitics and onto raw human suffering and resilience. Create empathy.
And he suggests a specific angle for their testimony, too.
Yeah, he suggests they should talk about how the citizens in Gaza, quote, not once offered any empathy or compassion.
That connects to comments Trump made after meeting hostages, doesn't it?
It does. It validates it as a potentially powerful message. The strategy is to use that emotional testimony to counter the narrative that paints the entire Gaza population as victim, and instead highlight the hostility within Gaza towards Israeli victims.
Okay. Recommendation 5 is about shifting the blame. This sounds like a PR judo.
It kind of is. Instead of always being on the defensive, denying charges of genocide, Kirk says Israel's spokespeople need to go on the offensive by forcefully arguing that it's Hamas committing genocide against its own people by using them as human shields, storing weapons next to civilians.
Turn the accusation back around.
Yeah.
Frame Hamas as the primary rights violator against Palestinians.
Precise. Reframe the whole narrative. Kirk notes this information sometimes drips out in mainstream news, but it's practically non-existent on social media, which is where it needs to be hammered home.
He also suggests a specific PR campaign with catchy name. You got us wrong.
Yeah, that sounds like a classic counter-narrative campaign. Get emotional, get personal.
Interviewing ordinary Israelis.
All kinds. Jews, Israeli Arabs, Orthodox, secular. Ask them simple questions. What do you love about it? What do you wish the world knew?
And have them respond directly to the misinformation they see online.
In their own words. The goal is authenticity. Show the world Israel isn't some monolithic bloc. It's a diverse, messy, real democracy, especially compared to its neighbors. Fight the othering with real faces, real voices.
And finally, related to that, he stresses the need for visual proof.
Absolutely critical for the social media age. Show, don't just tell.
What kind of visuals?
He suggests clips of Israeli hospitals treating wounded terrorists. That shows incredible humanitarianism, right? And clips of the IDF dropping warning leaflets. Tangible proof they're trying to avoid civilian casualties.
These visuals cut through the noise and provide powerful counter-evidence.
They have to be part of the strategy. Okay, so that brings us to the final section, section 4. Kirk pivots here.
From suggesting solutions to kind of questioning Israel's resolve.
Exactly. He basically uses Israel's own reputation for ingenuity against them, saying they have no excuse for failing in the space.
He brings up Israel's tech prowess, mentions the beeper bomb operation.
Yeah, let's give a little context there for listeners. That was when Israel remotely detonated hundreds of pagers and phones used by Hezbollah operatives in 24.
A stunning display of technical skill and coordination.
Absolutely. And Kirk uses that as his example. He says, look, this is the country that did that. This is the Silicon Valley of the Middle East.
They have the brain power and technological expertise in spades.
So the capability to run a sophisticated, fast digital information campaign, it's obviously there. The tech isn't the problem.
So the question isn't, can they do it?
The question, Kirk implies, is do they have the willpower to step up its game in the information war? Is it a priority? Is the leadership willing to commit the resources and focus needed?
He frames it as a failure of will or maybe institutional inertia, not a lack of ability.
And his final judgment on the current situation is hard. The status quo is not working. Israel, he says, is getting crushed.
And the stakes are incredibly high. This isn't just about bad PR.
No. He explicitly warns that losing the information war will eventually translate into less political and military.
He's drawing a direct line from social media sentiment to U.S. foreign policy, and he's telling Netanyahu this comms failure could eventually cost Israel its most vital ally.
And you feel the personal plea at the end. He talks about how important the Holy Land is to him personally and how much it pains him to see that support slipping away.
Especially among the young people he interacts with daily, even within his own conservative Megier base.
Right. And then there's one final important point about Iran that gets tucked in.
Connecting the support issue to wider foreign policy concerns among conservatives.
Kirk points out that Israel needs to do a better job explaining the threat from Iran in a way that resonates with young conservatives.
Because that generation, his base, they grew up during the Iraq and Afghanistan.
Exactly. They are deeply skeptical of foreign entanglement, very isolationist leaning, even if they're ideologically pro.
So if the message they hear is supporting Israel means America gets dragged into another huge war in the Middle East, especially with Iran,
their support might just evaporate. Even if they like Israel, they don't want another endless war. So Kirk is advising Netanyahu, tailor the message, reassure this group that backing Israel doesn't automatically mean deploying U.S. troops to fight Iran.
It's a really nuanced point about understanding your specific audience segments in America.
It is. So let's try and pull this all together. What does this letter really mean?
Well, first off, it's clearly a detailed plan, a blueprint maybe, for a total overhaul of Israel's information strategy.
It's urgent, it's specific, and he backs it up with that mix of personal experience from campuses and the hard polling data showing support cratering among young Americans.
And crucially, this completely debunks that online narrative, doesn't it? The idea that Kirk had turned on Israel or suddenly hated Netanyahu.
Absolutely. This isn't a rejection. It's a fierce critique from an ally. It's someone deeply invested who sees a disaster happening in slow motion and is yelling, "Wake up!"
Offering very specific American-style communication tactics to try and stop the bleeding. It's tough love aimed at survival in the information age.
It's a demand, really, for the Israeli government to seize control of its own story, its own narrative, and stop relying on volunteers to fight its battles.
Which leads us to that final thought to leave us with.
Yeah, this raises a really fundamental question, I think. Given Kirk's documented concern about Israel relying so heavily on American surrogates, what's the inherent danger there?
You mean for the surrogates themselves or for the U.S.?
Both, perhaps. What happens politically, maybe even constitutionally, when private citizens start feeling obligated to run the public defense for a foreign government's policies and actions, especially when that government seems unable or unwilling to do it effectively itself?
That blurring of the line between citizen advocacy and essentially acting as an unofficial foreign aid.
Exactly. It's something you should definitely think about when kinds of international mailing out, especially when they rely so much on passionate individuals filling a void left by government.